Eric Harper was used to the quiet solitude of the Alaskan wilderness. She had moved to the small town of Sitka after a long career as a commercial pilot in search of peace and a connection to nature. But tonight the usual serenity was shattered by an extraordinary event as she sat by her living room window sipping a cup of herbal tea. A sudden flash of light streaked across the sky, followed by a deafening roar that reverberated through the forest. Her heart raced. It wasn't a meteor she knew from her years of experience in the air. Something had crashed, and it wasn't of this world. She grabbed her flashlight and stepped out in an ugly coat, her breath visible in the cool night air. Her curiosity, mixed with a sense of duty, whatever had crashed could pose a danger, and she needed to investigate. Erica's neighbors, and an eclectic mix of nature enthusiasts and lifelong Alaskans, were already gathering in the town square, murmuring anxiously. She quickly found her friend Tom, an experienced hunter, and together they led a small group towards the crash site. Their flashlights pierced the darkness. The journey was arduous. The forest was thick with snow and underbrush. The group moved cautiously. The eerie silence of the night was only broken by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot as they neared the source of the explosion. A faint glow became visible through the trees. Everyone wants to be left behind. Something was crashing, Tom warned. But Erica kept going. Her instincts told her that there was something or someone that needed help. They emerged into a clearing to find a scene from a science fiction novel. A sleek metallic craft lay half buried in the snow, its surface scorched and smoking. The glow they had seen came from inside, where dim lights flickered like a dying heartbeat. Erica's eyes were drawn to a small, trembling figure just outside the wreckage. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Erica saw that the creature was barely 3 feet tall, with a slender, almost translucent body that seemed to pulse with a soft light. Its large, expressive eyes looked up at her. Filled with a mixture of fear and pain, instinctively Eric walked over to her. He extended his hand in a gesture of peace. "Easy, easy." He murmured reassuringly, "We are here to help." To his surprise, the creature seemed to understand. He extended a delicate, trembling hand and touched his palm. Eric felt a warm sensation wash over him, a wordless communication that conveyed relief and gratitude. "Tom, bring a blanket." He shouted over his shoulder. "We need to keep it warm, Tom." And the others, initially hesitant, soon gathered together. Their apprehension gave way to curiosity and compassion. They wrapped the creature in a blanket and carefully lifted it up, carrying it back to Eric's house. Once inside, she placed the creature next to the fireplace. Eric's daughter Lily, who had woken up from the shock, gasped at the sight of it. "Mom, what's wrong?" Eric replied, "I don't know, darling, but it's hurt and needs our help." Lily, ever the compassionate one, knelt down beside the creature and offered a warm smile. "Hello, my name is Lily. What's your name?" The creature looked at her with those luminous eyes and then closed them. Her body relaxed slightly as if finally felt safe. Erica felt a protective Ada, whatever this being was. "I don't know, honey. I come a long way from home," and was now in her care. As the night wore on, Eric and his neighbors took turns watching over the creature. They named Lumi, inspired by the soft light it emitted. Lumi's wounds were tended to with care, and she slowly began to recover. It was clear to all that Lumi was intelligent and possibly even more advanced than humans in some ways. As dawn broke over the snow-covered landscape, Eric looked out the window at the peaceful morning. He knew their lives had changed forever. They had welcomed an extraordinary visitor into their midst, and with it a sense of wonder and responsibility. Few knew that this act of kindness would forge a bond that would shape their futures in ways they never could. The small town of Sitka was bustling with whispers about Lumi, the mysterious creature of the stars. Eric's home had become a haven not only for Lumi, but for an influx of curious neighbors and friends who brought supplies, medicines, and most of all their curiosity. Despite the initial tiredness, Lumi's gentle attitude and the slight calming glow she emitted won the hearts of many. Lumi's recovery was remarkable. Within days, she began to move more freely, exploring her new surroundings with childlike curiosity. Eric and his daughter Lily were constantly by her side, learning to communicate with her through gestures and emotions. They quickly discovered that Lumi was very intelligent and empathetic, able to sense and respond to her feelings. One night, when the family gathered in the living room, Lumi demonstrated her first remarkable ability. Eric was preparing dinner when a pot of boiling water slipped from her hands and splashed her arm. She screamed in pain. The burn was immediate. An intense, immaculate Lumi, who had been sitting quietly, sprang into action, touched Erica's arm gently, and a soothing warmth spread from her fingers, easing the pain and healing the burn within moments. Erica stared in amazement at Lumi's flawless skin. "Did you do this?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Lumia, nodding her head upwards, her eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that went beyond words. From that day onwards, Lumi's perception in the town went from cautious curiosity to reverence. Lumi's healing abilities were nothing short of miraculous. She healed wounds, soothed aches and pains, and even cured diseases that had long plagued the townspeople. News of Lumi's abilities spread, and soon people from neighboring towns began visiting Lumi, seeking her help. The community rallied around Lumi to ensure her safety and keep her existence a closely guarded secret. Eric and Tom took charge of organizing the influx of visitors and making sure Lumi never felt overwhelmed. Despite the growing number of people seeking Lumi's help, the creature never seemed to be able to or complain. It simply radiated a sense of peace and contentment, as if that was its purpose. However, not all attention was welcome. Rumors of Lumi's extraordinary abilities reached the ears of government agencies and private corporations eager to exploit her powers for their own ends. One afternoon, as Erica tended her garden with Lumi at her side, a black pickup truck pulled into her driveway. Two men in dark suits stepped out with their serious, unyielding demeanor. Miss Harper said, one of them displaying a badge. "We are from the Department of Homeland Security. We have received reports of an unidentified being in this area. We need to ask you a few questions." Eric's heart was pounding. One step back. He knew this day might come, but he wasn't prepared for it. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, trying to remain calm. The agents exchanged a glance. "We have reason to believe that you are harboring an extraterrestrial entity that we need to see." Before Eric could respond, Lumi stepped forward, placing himself between her and the agents. His eyes grew brighter, and the air seemed to hum with a barely perceptible energy. The agents faltered as they felt the power emanating from the small creature. "Please leave us alone." Lumi projected, not in words, but in a wave of emotion flooded through the agents' fear, respect, and an overwhelming need to retreat. The visibly shaken agents took a step back. "We will be in touch," one of them muttered before they hastily retreated to their vehicle and drove away. Eric sank to his knees, overwhelmed by the wake-up call. Lumi's glow dimmed as he turned to her, conveying a sense of calm and determination. It was clear Lumi was not just a passive healer. She had the power to protect those she cared about. That night, the town held a meeting. Tom, acting as the leader of death, addressed the gathered crowd. "We must be vigilant," said Lumi. "It's part of our community now, and it's up to us to protect. We've seen what she can do, and we owe her our loyalty." Are in silent, the townspeople nodding in agreement. They had experienced Lumi's kindness and healing firsthand, and were determined to protect her from those who would exploit her gifts. As the meeting dispersed, Eric felt a renewed sense of purpose. He looked at Lumi standing beside him. Her eyes reflected a quiet strength. They were united now, one people, a small town, and one strange being, small, and one extraordinary being, bound by a shared destiny. Few knew their bond would be tested in ways they could barely imagine, and the true extent of Lum's powers was yet to be revealed. Winter had tightened its grip on Sitka, blanketing the town in a thick layer of snow. The days were short, and the days seemed endless, but the town had grown accustomed to the comforting glow of Lum's presence. It was during one of these long, cold nights that the peace was once again broken. Eric woke up to the distant hum of engines. He looked out the window and saw the headlights of several vehicles snaking through the forest. His heart sank. The government agents had returned, and this time they weren't alone. Tom was already on his way to Eric's house when he woke Lily up and told her he was going to stay inside with Lumi's mom. "What's going on?" Lily asked him, her voice shaking with fear. "The agents have returned," Erica replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "But don't worry, we will protect Lumi." When Tom arrived, several SUVs and military trucks had already surrounded the property. The armed agents deployed their flashlights, piercing the darkness. Eric and Tom walked out with their hands raised in a gesture of peace. Miss Harper, the lead agent, yelled, "We have a warrant to search your property for the extraterrestrial entity known as Lumi." Please cooperate, and no one will get hurt. Eric looked at Tom, who seemed slightly they had discussed this possibility. And they had a plan. Please just listen, Erica began. But the agents were in no mood to negotiate. Clara moved forward with her intention. Before they could reach the house, a bright light burst from inside Lumi, came out, its glow intensified. With each step, the agents stopped, their expression changed from determination to bewilderment. Lumi's light wasn't just bright, it was warm, and she was filled with an overwhelming sense of calm. Leave us alone, leave us alone. Lumi projected her emotions, flowing over the agents like a wave. Fear, anger, and aggression faded, replaced by confusion and an inexplicable desire to retreat. The lead agent shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. We can't do that, he said, although his voice faltered. We have orders. Erica's mind raced. She knew Lum's abilities were powerful, but this was different. He wasn't defending them with violence, but with a deeper strength. Lumi, can you make him forget? She whispered, barely daring to hope. Lumi turned to her, his eyes filled with a deep understanding. He nodded slightly, and then looked at the agents again. The light around them pulsed, and people's eyes glazed over, as if they were seeing something far beyond the physical world. The lead agent blinked, his blank expression. What are we doing here? He muttered, turning to his colleagues. They looked equally disoriented. You were leaving, Tom said firmly, taking a step forward. There is nothing for you here. The agents hesitated for a moment before backing away. Slowly, they returned to their vehicles. The previous determination in their steps was now replaced by a mechanical obedience. The engines roared to life, and one by one the vehicles disappeared into the night. Eric exhaled a sigh. He hadn't realized he was holding Lumi. You did it, he whispered, hugging the glowing creature tightly. Lumi's light dimmed to its usual soft glow, and he leaned into her embrace. The next few days were tense but calm. The townspeople turned to watch the roads and keep an eye out for any sign of trouble returning. The story of Lum's defense spread, and the town grew even more protective of their extraordinary guests. One night, when the town gathered for a community meal, Tom stood up to speak. We face a great threat together, he said. His voice carried the weight of their shared experience. Lumi has shown us that strength does not always come from strength. Sometimes it is the power of compassion and understanding that can protect us. The room was silent. The truth of his words sank in. Lumi sat with Erica, and Lily looked around, saw the faces of her friends, and those she protected. She knew the small town had become her home, and she was willing to do whatever it took to keep them safe. Eric felt a surge of pride and love for the creature he had come to know and cherish. Lumi was not just a visitor from another world. She was a guardian, a friend, and a beacon of hope. As they faced the future together, they knew their bond was unbreakable, forged in the fires of trust and tested by the trials they had overcome. But Eric couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. Lumi's powers were incredible, but they were also a magnet for those who would seek to control or destroy. He knew they had to remain vigilant just in case. Lumi's safety and the future of their community depended on it. Spring had finally come to Sika, bringing a sense of renewal and hope. The snow was falling. It melted away, revealing vibrant green forests and blooming wildflowers. The town, now bound by a shared sea, the secret, thrived under Lumi's watchful care. It was gone, an unspoken agreement. They would protect Lumi, and in return Lumi protected them in ways they were only beginning to understand. Eric stood on her porch watching Lily and Lumi playing in the yard. Lumi's glow was softer in the daylight, but still radiated warmth and tranquility. As the days grew longer and the threat of government interference seemed to fade, the townspeople allowed themselves to believe they had finally found peace. But deep down, Eric knew this tranquility was fragile. The memory of the townspeople visiting was a harsh reminder of the outside world's interest in Lumi. They had been lucky once, but she feared that luck wouldn't last forever. One cool morning, the sound of distant helicopters broke the calm. Erica's heart raced as she ran outside, her eyes scanning the sky. Three black helicopters drew closer, their silhouettes menacing, cutting through the blue. The tension rising. Tom, they're back. Eric shouted, his voice tinged with urgency. People emerged from their homes, fear and determination etched on their faces. Lumi stepped forward, feeling the tension rising. She looked at Eric, her eyes reflected a mix of worry. And we need resolution. Hide yourself, said Eric, but Lumi dealt with her head. No, Lumi projected her emotions filled with a sense of purpose. This ends now. The helicopters landed just inside the city, and heavily armed agents came out, forming a perimeter. The lead agent, the same one who had visited months ago, gave a step forward, a grim expression on her face. Miss Harper, we have come for the entity, her voice announced. Carrying the weight of a confrontation, inevitable, we cannot allow her to remain here before Eric could respond. Lumi stepped forward, her glow intensified. The agents raised their weapons, but Lumi raised a hand, and a wave of calm washed over them, making them hesitate. Please, Lumi projected, addressing both the agents and the townspeople. There is no need for violence. The lead agent hesitated, but then shook his head, trying to resist the calming influence. You do not understand our orders. Are clear. You have to come with us. Lum's eyes softened with understanding. She approached the agents, and Eric's heart the ant with strength. She wanted to protect Lumi, but she also knew that Lumi had a strength beyond what any of them could comprehend. Suddenly, the sky above them darkened as a huge shadow passed overhead. They all looked up to see a colossal spaceship, slowly descending its sleek metallic surface, gleaming in the sunlight. The agents, the townspeople, and even Eric were stunned and frightened. The ship landed softly on the outskirts of the village, and a ramp expanded to the ground. A tall figure, Afada, emerged, her appearance similar to Lum's, but with an air of authority and wisdom. Lum's eyes widened with recognition and relief. Mother Lumi projected her emotions, a mix of joy and reverence. Being Lum's mother, she approached and placed a hand on Lum's shoulder and turned to address the gathered crowd. Her voice echoed in their minds. I am Saren, leader of Lumina. We come in peace and gratitude for the care you have given our daughter. The agents, stunned by the arrival of another alien, lowered their weapons slightly. The lead agent stepped forward. His expression was conflicted. We were just following orders, he said almost apologetically. Saren ascended. We understand your fear, but Lumi is not a threat. She is a healer, a protector. We offer our thanks to this village for their kindness. Turning to Lumi, Saren continued, it's time to return home. Lumi, your journey here was unexpected, but you have done well. Lumi looked at Eric, Lily, and the townspeople, her eyes filled with a deep, bittersweet emotion. I will always remember you. Project thank you for your love and protection. Tears filled Erica's eyes as she stepped forward to hug Lumi. We will miss you, she whispered in a voice choked with emotion. Lily hugged Lumi tightly. Goodbye, goodbye, Lumi. Lumi, thank you for all. The townspeople watched with a heavy heart as Lumi and Saren ascended the ramp back to the ship. The massive ship hummed to life, lifting off with a gentle grace that swelled its size as it rose higher into the sky. One last wave of warmth and peace washed over the town, a parting gift from Lumi. The ship disappeared into the skies, leaving behind a town forever changed. The agents, their mission now moot, they departed in silence, their expressions thoughtful and dull. In the days that followed, life on Sika slowly returned to normal, but the memory of Lumi lingered. The fields seemed greener, the air fresher, and the people kinder. They had experienced something extraordinary, a bond that transcended the boundaries of earth and sky. Eric often found himself looking up at the stars, wondering where Lumi was and what she was doing. She knew that Lumi had left a piece of herself with them, a legacy of hope and compassion that would guide them through any challenge that came their way. And so the town of Sika moved forward, united by the extraordinary story of how they had saved an alien baby who in turn had protected them for life. Their story became a legend, a beacon of hope for future generations, reminding them that kindness and courage could forge bonds strong enough to reach the stars.